Hi, I'm Jerry Glass and this is Ryan Maiden.
Hello.
We've got the opportunity today to show you how to set up and run a Mousetrap event. One of the first things that we need to do is to set up the track. On the Science Olympiad website, they have a Mousetrap Vehicle track that you can look at and you can use for various measurements. One of the first things that we need to do is we need to measure out a line for 8 meters. Okay, so now when you set up the track, you want to find yourself a flat surface where you're going to be able to run. One of the things that I'll just say now, we're doing this within a classroom. Typically, these will be done in a high school gymnasium. One of the things that we do is we usually go to the 10 centimeter mark, and then we adjust everything forward 10 centimeters to make sure that we've got a accurate line. And when we set this up, what Mr. Maiden currently is doing is he's putting the start line down there and making a mark right on a specific spot. And then down here, I'm going to pull it straight. Sometimes if you're in the gymnasium, you could use the lines of the floor to help in these devices. Okay, so I'm just going to tape this down for a temporary check, and then Mr. Maiden will come through and go to, there we go, the 810 spot, so we could have that marked, and then we'll put a location right there, a nice X, so it'll be clear for the participants to know exactly where that stop point is. Now, when it comes time for the vehicle target point, it could be at a couple of different locations. On the sheet, in the rules, they have specifications on what to go for regionals, what to go for state, what to go for nationals. Okay, most, if you're running this as an invitational, go with the regional numbers. Okay, and so for the regional numbers, it's going to be offset to the right 10 centimeters. Okay, and the center line is going to be basically for regionals somewhere between 1 and 2 meters back from our 8 mark.
Let's put it right in the middle. So we're halfway back between the 1 and the 2 mark. Will put us right at the 6.6 meter mark. Remember, we're offset by 10 centimeters. So that's where we start. And we place our meter stick down there. And we're going 10 centimeters off of where we began. And then of course, as you go, make sure to mark where the exact mark is so they know where they're aiming for.
It doesn't take too long to set up. There's not a lot of tape to worry about when it comes time for that. Another thing that you can do with the tape that can be a very handy thing is you can, since you have the tape out, you can create a 40 by 40 square since you already have the tape set and ready. When it comes time for the vehicle dimensions, the vehicle will have to be able to run or be in the run state where the tires, including the treads, be within that 40 centimeter mark or 40 centimeter box. Okay. One thing that you do have to watch out for is students or participants, if they're too long, they might say, well, I could fit it this way and I'm within the dimensions. Well, what that would mean is if they would have it at this angle, I would make sure that when they would set up at the start angle, they would definitely have that vehicle angled at that same angle that they've got there. They'll quickly say, okay, no, I have to run it in that particular position. Once we have got the tape all down, now it's time to pull up the strip of tape and we are ready to essentially run the event and be ready for students. Prior to the event, this is a impound event. What you need to do is you want to make sure that the students bring their vehicle, they bring their log sheet to this. And you can find some location where there won't be a lot of traffic. You could always use tape to block off those particular areas to say, all right, nobody go over here. Along with the Mousetrap sheets that they have online, they do have a wonderful spreadsheet. What this wonderful spreadsheet does is it allows us to input scores, and it will basically do all the math for you. Now, along with this comes a Mousetrap vehicle score sheet. Okay. What we usually do is when students come in and they're going to impound stuff, we have them fill out their team name and their students' names, and then we have them put that on their box and take that over to the location where they're going to store it. One of the key things that we really work on is not touching the students' vehicles. If you touch a student's vehicles, who knows, maybe you bump something or not, or whatever. Whenever it comes time for removing the vehicles, have these students move their own vehicles and avoid touching those at all possibilities. Now, when it does come time for measuring the devices, what you can do is you can do two things. If you have time to get it measured before a check-in, you can do that, but a lot of times we're spending a lot of time setting up the track, getting in. Kids need to go to other events, they need to go elsewhere, and so we'll do the pre-inspection prior to race. Okay, and so what they'll do is they'll come on by, they'll put their vehicle into the square, and you can do a quick measurement of a look-see to see if the wheels, not just where the wheels are touching on the bottom, but the curvature of the wheels, those have to be within the 40 centimeters. Okay. Now, axles, other parts of the vehicle, they can overhang. Okay, so sometimes you'll have these huge axle rods that'll stick out beyond that. That's fine, it's just the wheels. Okay. As they're standing there, you can ask them some questions about their device. As you're doing that, you can inspect it to make sure that you've got the two mousetrap parts. You have no more than 4 holes per mousetrap. They haven't modified it. They haven't stuck like a gigantic rat trap on there, whatever, to make sure that that's within specs. Okay. There is information on here that talks about the construction parameters, about all the different things that you can look for. Okay. Also look to see if there's any extra kinetic energy, if they do have anything extra like that. You have to make sure that they're in the lowest states. Okay. While it's also on there, you can check the dowel rods. The dowel rods have to be less than a centimeter from the bottom. They have to be in the front, and this is where the cup is going to be placed. All right. You can check for electronic devices or components on the vehicles. I doubt that you will find one, but every now and then somebody might have something on there, which sometimes they might put a laser pointer on there for some kind of measuring device. You can't have that secured to the vehicle. All right. From here, then once we have everything checked in and the construction parameters work out, then we can make our way over to the track. Take a little break.
All right, folks, we have a couple things that we're going to need when it comes to setting up the track. We have our meter sticks, we have a tape measure, of course we have tape. You're also going to need a pen and some sort of writing utensil to mark the exact point on that tape that the students are aiming for with their cars. A couple other things we're going to go through and use. We have the rules, of course. The rules are very important. It gives us a general outline of what everything needs to do. That is the #1 source of information for this event. We also have a diagram of the track that you can download off the Science Olympiad website. It helps get all the measurements down pat when you're setting up the track itself. And then during the competition, the score sheet is also available on the website as well, as is an Excel file that allows you to plug in all your numbers, and it will do all the scorekeeping for you on the computer. When the run actually begins, you're going to use 3 main things. We have a timer. These timers are going to be used just to keep time. You could also use a photo gate system. However, the timers are always a good backup to have in case something fails or something else gets in the way. You need a 3-ounce paper cup. This is going to be what the vehicles are pushing forward down the track, hopefully leaving behind at the 8-meter mark before they reverse. And then lastly, to get the vehicle started, you need an unsharpened #2 pencil. We always bring about a pack of these in case students don't have their own. It's also highly encouraged that the staff who are running the event have plenty of extras.
All right, now we're all set up to run an event. Now when it comes time for this, the students get 2 runs for this. What you want to do is you want to have a multitude of stopwatches. The best scenario is if you have 3 or more people with stopwatches to keep track of time. That would be the ideal scenario. Whatever the center time, that's what the time would the run be. All right. Now, in addition to timing the run of the vehicle, the other thing that you'll have to keep track of is the time that the event starts. Now, when the students or when the participants come in, they have a little time to set up. Once we get through the pre-judging of the vehicle to make sure it's up to specs, we come on over. I talk to the participants about how the track is set up. They'll probably already know what the distance back to the target line for the vehicle, because they'll ask that early. They'll also make sure if they want to do any kind of pre-discussion with you, that's fine. Once you're ready, you can hand the participant a cup. They will place it over the starting spot. That cup has to be anywhere over the points. In order to start the vehicle, they're going to be using a #2 pencil that is not sharpened. They're going to use the eraser end, and they're going to apply a force perpendicular to the floor. The key thing is you don't want to see them shoving the pencil to the side to get them going. It should be a perpendicular force to get it going. Now, once that vehicle starts rolling, the timers will start, and this would be a good time if you had individuals. You'd say, timers, be ready, and then I usually ask the participants to say, give me a 3, 2, 1, and then hit. That way the timers are all set and ready to go. All right, so let's go ahead and give a shot with this.
3, 2, 1.
Now that the run has been completed and the vehicle came to a complete stop, everybody hit their stopwatch. Now, you have to be very cautious. If it stays dead for 3 seconds and doesn't move, that's the time that you've got, minus the 3 seconds lag on that. So it's whatever it is when that vehicle stops. If it starts up within like 2 seconds or 1 second, that time has to continue on. Now what's happened is the vehicle has traveled from the start position. Here's the cup point where we're looking at, and then over here is where the cup ended up stopping. A handy thing that you can do is if you have some extra blue tape, which you do, we got both blue tape, what you're going to do is you're going to find the location closest to the cup, and you can place that tape down there, so that way you can have a nice specific measurement from this location. So now this cup can move. So now we've got a nice location from this point to this point right there. And you can measure it with a meter stick. Once again, we like to do the offset rule, so that way, who knows what's there. If we go over to 10, in this case, we're right at 55, so that would be 45 centimeters. Okay. The other location that we have to pay attention to is where the dowel rod had stopped. Now, when you do this, be very careful about this because everything is super tight and close. So try as much as you can to completely avoid touching their vehicle. Okay, because in that way, let's say, well, you moved it back or whatever. And so you could place the tape down, and then what we do is the participants would be still over there. If they come walking this way, that's it is a violation. Typically, if we see them start to move, we will warn them immediately to stay down there. Okay, so once we've got this here, we'll say, students, come on down, pick up your vehicle, and they'll come down and once they pick up the vehicle, that timed position, that 8 minutes, we will start that time back up. So now they have time to reset for the second run. While they're resetting for that second run, we'll get that new measurement for that vehicle, and we'll score that on the score sheet. Okay.
Having a tape measure is nice just in case the vehicle or the cup is more than a meter away. It's easy just to pull out a long tape rather than having to keep track of multiple meter sticks. So having one of these is useful for the track as well as measurements for some of the least accurate vehicles.
Okay. Now also, once you do get your measurements, make sure you do please pull up your blue tape that you put down, so that way it doesn't confuse the participants on the next run. And then you can take the cup, and then you can head back down, and they can reset the vehicle on the line, create whatever they need to do. You can hand them the cup, they can reset that, and then you're ready for the second run. All right. Couple of key things to keep in mind when you do run this. That score sheet is a very, very handy guide. And, here it is. So don't ever lose the score sheet. Score sheet's a very handy guide. It'll tell you what run you've got. Be very familiar with this. Take time and read through it. This is not per se all the rules, but this is the vast majority of the rules are identified in there. And so if you do end up having issues, you could always refer back to that rules book, okay? And so as you make it through a run, you can go through and check off if they had proper items that either have a yes or a no to them, okay? Now, when it comes time for scoring, basically follow the information here. It'll ask you like how many yeses are there, how many Y's are there, or in this case, do you have all yeses or do you have any no's, and so on and so on. Because when it comes time for the spreadsheet will basically score it for you, and then you can write their rank and their final score, and you're good from there. When it does come time for their log sheets, please do look through these log sheets. Essentially, they have to have several parameters on this log sheet. On the rules, there's a place if they're incomplete or not. They should have a couple different things. They should have the vehicle distance, cup distance, and run times for at least 10 practice runs while varying at least one vehicle parameter. And so when you look through that, please look to see that they have at least 10 runs and they have those different variables, and that they've changed those variables up. Okay, you can do that at a couple of different times. If you want to do that right before their run, you can. You can do that at impound, where you get the paper. Let me see your log sheet, so that way you know that they're impounding a log with that. Other things that you have to keep in mind is your impound. You're going to have a location where they're going to place their vehicles. They're going to either be in boxes, or they're going to be on the ground, or somewhere where you want to make sure you have that taped off. You want to make sure that no parents or spectators can get in there, okay? If you have that, people can walk on these things and crush these things in a heartbeat. So have it in a spot where only the participants can have access to them. And then when it comes time for working with these devices, have those participants pick up those vehicles and bring them to you to get set up.